So let's say you've just written this great article that sums up some research on which type of facial expressions lead to the most successful online profile pictures for dating sites. And you're trying to figure out which of these titles is most likely to engage a reader, get a reader to actually click on your text and check it out. Well, why don't we see what research has to say about this? But first, it kind of helps to start with an analogy. McDonald's and Louis Burgers, all right, or Louis Burgers. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Here's a couple hamburger restaurants. One of them you've probably heard of, all right? In case you're not familiar with it, Louis Burgers is a burger chain in California. They've got 4 locations. There's one in Torrance, I think, another one in Long Beach. I think there might be one in Vallejo, too. When you look online, people seem to like Louis Burgers. It's got like 4 stars, or at least 3.5 stars on Yelp. You compare that with McDonald's, which consistently gets bad reviews. People, don't think of McDonald's as being a quality, restaurant, but you've heard of it, right? It's a global powerhouse. Why? Why is it so successful if people don't seem to like the product? Well, a big part of that is that when you go to McDonald's, you know exactly what you're going to get. This is the big draw that keeps people coming back. If you've ever been there before and you look at this picture, you know what those fries are going to smell and taste like. If you've had one before, you know what a Big Mac is gonna taste like. You have a pretty fair sense of what it's gonna cost too. And that's the thing about McDonald's. They're incredibly consistent. You drive by this and you look at this and you're like, you don't know what you're gonna get. And that does not draw people in. So, what does this mean for, we're not selling hamburgers, right? We're writing here, but online readers, have way more options, than someone in the mood for a burger, right? You do a search for, say, online dating profile pictures on Google, you get 105 million results. You go to the Berkeley Library, and you still have 230 something thousand results. No one's going to read all that stuff. So there, and most people, you look at all these options and you're like, and you click on something, right? So, so what do people click on? Yeah, search engine optimization helps, and maybe, you recognize the publisher and you're like, oh, I trust that publisher. But, a big part of this just comes down to titles, right? That's what you see. That's what is salient. That's what stands out. So, what types of titles hook readers? Well, it turns out it's the ones that kind of work like McDonald's. They show people what they're going to get, right? So for instance, here's what research shows about titles. Titles that focus on results get more clicks, more reader engagement than ones that focus on methods, right? So take a look at this title. An online dating profile pic, smiles, they help women, but they hurt men. That's what the result of the research was. You put that in the title, that generates more interest than something like this, where, well, we investigated it, all right? You look at this, if you want to find out what the result of the investigation was, you have to click on the thing and then read it. A lot of people, that's like Louis Burgers. They're like, I don't know if I'm going to, I just, they don't do it. In a similar vein, asking questions doesn't generate as many clicks as when you give answers, all right? Maybe you ask a question in the title, but follow that up with some sort of answer, or just say what the result is. And this is also the reason we see so many list titles like this. One simple trick, 3 easy ways, 7 fascinating facts. We see lots of these because, in the same sense, they tell readers what they're gonna get. You know how long this article is going to be, right? It's going to be probably going to have 4 paragraphs. This one's probably going to have 7 paragraphs. Who knows what you're going to get into once you click on that. There's also an evolutionary tie-in to these things, by the way. We have this evolved habit to kind of scan the horizon and look for something that's different. If you see a whole bunch of beige on the horizon and one little red thing, that's going to catch your eye. That what is that? Well, in a field of letters, you throw in one number, and this triggers, the brain's attention. That's on a side note. But, really, I think what's key, though, is this is just another example of telling readers exactly what they're going to get out of the text. And then, of course, we need to be reasonably, clear and concise about this. And that's why, research shows that concise titles that don't have a colon, like there's a colon, titles that don't have a colon generate more reader interest, more clicks. They get cited more often. They get published more often than titles like this that are just long. Oftentimes you can just rework these titles so they don't have colons in them. All right, so the takeaway from this, your title has to clearly tell readers what they're going to get. Just to give you one last example of this, this is an article from some website called ladders.com. You may never have heard of this. This thing was published 6 years ago, but it's like the 5th ranked Google search for like profile picture. If you do a search for profile pictures, it's still near the top. And a big part of that is it keeps getting clicked because it got a good title. It tells you exactly what you're going to learn about in the text. And then, notice how the author then goes into a byline to tell you, the list thing. How many, you know exactly what you're going to get out of this. That's something we can all aim for in our writing as well.